Okay, just bear with me. I'll just give it another 30 seconds and then we'll begin. Might be a good idea, a good opportunity to go and grab a hot beverage as we wait. I'm sure you can make a cup of tea or something in 30 seconds. Bit of a challenge. Okay, I can see some familiar faces or familiar names from the last webinar. Okay, let's get started. We are recording. Everybody's on mute. Perfect. Right. So welcome to the webinar. If you're new, there's some new faces, but the majority look like past attendees. If you attended the previous webinar last week, then welcome back. I hope that you found last week's webinar very useful. It was just a taster into starting a rent-to-rent business where we covered the various operational methods, models, and how you can pitch the idea to letting agents and landlords. For those that don't know, my name is Kenny Sahota, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Amelia Group, and I'd like to warmly welcome you and introduce you to this exciting property strategy called Rent to Rent. Not so much introducing you because we did that in the last webinar, so now we go deep into it. A little reminder about me. I operate 3 property businesses, niching the majority in HMOs. We have 330 units, actually just over that. 220 of those units are based on the rent-to-rent HMO model, but our main primary business is commercial to residential developments. That's our 90% of my focus. So for those that didn't get to watch the last webinar, it is available to watch on replay. The webinar link should have been sent out to your email. Bear with me, I'm just admitting more people. There we are. Sorry, so for those that didn't get to watch the last webinar, it is available to watch on replay. The webinar link should have been sent out to your email, so be sure to check your spam folder, your junk folder. Alternatively, you can just find the video on our Amelia Property London YouTube page. So if you haven't seen our YouTube page, just type in Amelia Property London and be sure to subscribe and click that bell notification to get notifications. We kind of do videos once a week, at least once a week. We've done quite a few videos already, so these are pre-recorded, and our marketing guys just go out and just post them on our YouTube channel. Saves me the headache. And bear with me, there's a few more people being pushed through. Right now we're getting the numbers up. Okay. Just quickly, if you can't hear me, just make yourself known in the chat facility. I don't think you should have any issues if you've got a headset on. I can see a lot of you have microphones, but just drop me a chat, drop me a note on chat if you can't hear me. I'll give it a second or so. Fantastic. Thanks, Andy. And also, you should be seeing the slides. It should be an introductory slide on sourcing. If you can't see that, just to make yourself known as well. I'm sure the majority can see my screen. I do have 4 screens, so I'm hoping you're seeing the right screen. Oh, brilliant. Okay. So let's get on with it. So firstly, thank you and congratulations for joining this webinar, especially for those that have come on for the second time. For me, it just goes to show that you have a real keen interest and perhaps maybe looking to take this up as a career move or step towards better improving your current situation or improving your life. So listen, to those that want to take it up, to take up rent to rent, don't wait. In fact, why wait? Just do it. You've got all the resources around you to guide you to not make the same mistakes I made over 11 years ago. And the fact is, it's actually getting easier to do this than ever before, as more and more letting agents are now more open to the idea because more and more people are doing it. So they're not new to the idea. And we'll go into rejection later on in the webinar. We'll talk about the key reasons why an agent would say no and how you can turn that around. I think that's what's really important about this webinar. So if you are thinking about this, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. In fact, like last week's webinar, I've opened up some slots for free strategy calls. I know I've already spoken to some of you. The idea of the calls is to really help you decide what to do, and I'm open to answer any questions you may have. At the end of the webinar, you'll have the opportunity to schedule that call with me. And don't worry, this webinar is being recorded. So for the guys that have joined in a little bit later, you can just watch the first couple of minutes that you've missed. It would just been introducing really. And yeah, the recorded version will probably go up on YouTube, and just look out for your emails. It'll be sent to you via email, so you can watch it as many times as you want. So let's do this. As can be seen from the title of this slide, this webinar will be related to sourcing rent-to-rent properties. It's the next logical step in the whole end-to-end journey, and that's how this whole webinar series is structured. Apologies if there was confusion around the webinar on Tuesday. Unfortunately, I was off sick. You might be able to hear it in my voice. I am recovering, but well enough to do this webinar, but I could not do the webinar on Tuesday. We'll talk about the next webinar series at the end, and we'll reveal those dates at the end of this webinar. But let's crack on. There we are. So in the previous webinar, I would have touched based on this particular blueprint. It's a framework I've created to illustrate how I operate my business and have done so over the past 11 years. So this framework has 3 main components. Each component is like a machine. You have the sales machine, where you have a constant flow of new business coming in. The next is your systems machine, or your day-to-day management machine, focusing on the delivery of your service or products. And then finally, you have your scalability machine, where you focus on monitoring and analyzing key data in your business that allows you to grow and flourish your business, or even discuss exit options. In the same way you have property. So if you're investing in property, you would purchase the property, but you'd always have some sort of exit strategy. Now, typically in property, if you're buying a property or development, the typical exit strategies are you can either buy it to add value and then sell it for a profit. That's one exit. Two would be you could buy it, keep it, refinance it to pull as much as your money back out, to then repeat the process of whatever money you've pulled out and buy your next one. And at the same time, it's cash flowing. Or three is you can buy, sell, buy to keep, or you could just keep growing the portfolio and then sell the portfolio at a later date. And same with business. With business, you can start a business from scratch, add value to it by growing the business, and then look to sell the business for a large sum based on the valuation, which is usually a multiplier of whatever the income is. And that's how you need to see this. This whole thing needs to be seen as a business. And when you see it as a business, you can see there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You can see where you're going with this. You have a clear steer of what you want to do. So that's the idea of this blueprint. This isn't just about learning about rent to rent. It's learning about how to treat it as a business and have an end goal. And in this webinar today, we're going to cover the sales machine component of this framework. So that's the idea of this webinar. Exciting stuff. It's actually, I personally think the sales and the scalability parts are, for me, it's the most fun. Systems is great. I do like, I guess it depends on the type of person you are. There's people out there that love people and are, the people's type person. So they have great people skills. They get a buzz out of converting a sale. For those of you, for those of you that are like that sort of personality, you would love this webinar. There's people out there that are more down into the detail, more introverts, and they rather than having a vision, what they do is they usually like COO, so chief operating officers. What they do is they work with the person with the vision and implements that vision in the business. So they're more process people, and they get a buzz out of creating a process out of something. That's going to be covered in the next webinar. That's a systems machine. So if you're that type of person, you would love the next webinar. But if you're more of a people's person and you like getting out there and you get a real buzz out of converting someone and signing them up, then this machine particular component is what you're going to love. And I particularly like the scalability because for me, I'm more of a vision type person. I like seeing, I like coming up with a solution to a problem and then having that solution grow into a great business and then have some sort of exit strategy so that I see a return on whatever I'm doing. And I personally like the scalability part. Also, I like looking at more than one business as well. Yeah, I think I like the term serial entrepreneur. I think you need to have multiple. I think you need to spread your eggs in multiple baskets, and I think every business owner should do that. So they can't rely on just one income coming in. You really need to look into scaling and diversifying. All of that is to reduce risk. Anything could happen, and one particular strategy might fold, or at least that way you have other strategies to fall upon. Anyhow, I kind of digress. I just love. I'm very passionate about business and turning everything into a business, basically. So here's the agenda for today's webinar. I'll do my best to keep this. What time is it now? It's 10 to 7. Okay, I'll do my best to keep this within an hour. It should be a shorter webinar than it was last week, because of the way we've structured the series. It's pretty much like a full day's content split over 4 webinars. And this webinar is very, very specific. I think what you get with me is I don't waffle on. We'll just talk straight solutions, and that's really what you're going to get, solutions to getting results, basically. So let's move on. So I'll keep it to an hour so that everybody can do their usual evening duties and have dinner on time. First, we'll talk about the service offering and why it's vital to have nailed before you even begin sourcing properties. We'll then go on to some tools that you can have as extra ammunition to help back up your service offering to your landlords or agents, further convincing them buying into your story or your pitch. Next, also very crucial, is how to choose the area that you should operate in, so you have the confidence that there's demand, so you don't have to worry about having empty properties, basically, or empty rooms. We'll then move on to the 2 routes to sourcing properties and how to apply it to your business, so the sourcing methods. So lots of content. Get your notepad ready because you'll need it. Let's crack on. Oh, of course, there'll be a live Q&A at the end as well. So any questions that you have, write them down, and then at the end we'll read what questions you have. If you don't have any questions, then that means the content has obviously answered all your questions. So I've created a poll. So before we get started, based on what you learnt last week, how confident are you at this stage in convincing landlords to using your services and for them to give their property over to you based on the rent-to-rent model? So on a scale between 1 and 5, 5 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident, I'm just going to launch a poll. Just choose between 1 and 5 of how confident you are in convincing landlords. And don't forget, this is before you actually learning how to source property. So I'm not expecting many confident people, but I'm also going to ask the same question at the end of the webinar based on the content you receive, just to see whether that makes any difference on how confident you are if you're given the knowledge on how to do it. So here we are. Right. That should be live now. Just waiting on a few more people to vote. Oh, we've got 1 person that's very, very confident. Just 1 more person. Okay, I don't think that person has access. Never mind. It looks like the majority have chosen between 1 and 3, which is what I kind of expected. We've got a few people that have, actually, we've got 1 person that said 4 and 1 person that said 5. So for those that have said 4 or 5, just for my information, do you just want to make yourself known in the chat box? Feel free to send me a private message if you can. Cheers for that, Adam. And Sandeep said 4. Oh, okay, so you meant 3. Okay. So Adam, no worries. Adam, have you done rent-to-rent before? So you're the type of person, you sound like the type of person, I mean, I've never spoken to you or met you, but You sound like the type of person that falls into the sales people's personality. Am I right in saying that? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, cool. Thanks for confirming that. It just gives me an idea to better get to know every one of you. So it's nice to know that we've got someone on the webinar here that is that type of personality, and I think you'll be able to resonate with everything we're saying on this webinar. So look, thank you for all of that. Thanks for contributing to the poll. Let's move on. Let's crack on. Okay, so last week we discussed your operational model. Oh, bless you, Adam. Thank you very much. Adam's just said my teaching skills are amazing, easy to understand, and you're so pumped. I think this is the idea of um, this stuff. I think you have to be pumped to succeed in this stuff. If you're doing this stuff and you're doing it half-assed, I think any business that you do half-assed, it's not going to work. I think you really have to have the motivation. I think that's the key thing with entrepreneurship. And to be fair, you have ups and downs, and this is why I keep referring to business rather than just rent to rent. Because once you start doing this, you essentially become an entrepreneur. And one of there's so many ups and downs, and you have your good days, your bad days, and it's not just about knowing about property and having the skill set, but it's actually being at your best peak performance as well. So it's so much more than just knowing about property. It's more about being in the correct state of mind to make phone calls, to have those sales phone calls, and then being in a certain state of mind to be able to do more process stuff. So anyway, again, I digress. We'll talk about it in the other webinars, but this webinar will specifically talk about sales. And what we're talking about now is your service offering. So like I said, we discussed your operation model last week, i.e. whether you're a hospitality business, a care business, a business providing bedsits, which is pretty much what we do, or a business providing co-working spaces, or any other commercial operation. Once you've decided on that and have that in place, next is to nail your service offering. So what is it that you can offer to your end client, i.e. in this case, the landlord, for them to take up your services, sign up, and give you their property? The best way to start answering this question is to look at who you're up against. Let's just say you operate a HMO business like we do and want to provide affordable homes to working professionals in a house share community. Basically meaning that you're looking for 3 or 4 bedroom houses with 1 or 2 reception rooms that you can convert into multiple bedrooms to then let out. A landlord, your potential client, could rent that property to either you as a company, or they can choose to typically rent it out to a single family or of adults or a small family. So let's compare the difference of a single family versus your company, because essentially that's what you're going to be up against. Let's look at what a single family would offer to the landlord and go from there, especially if agents are involved. If most landlords kind of deal with letting agents. So a single family would usually pay the market value every month, but circumstances can change. They could lose their job. One parent, if they're like a household, one parent could be going on maternity leave, and thus income may drop all of a sudden. So the income is not always guaranteed. Yes, they may have passed referencing at the stage of moving in, but that can always change at a later date. So this could be a fear for your that could be a fear that your landlord actually has. A single family will occupy the property for the duration of the term, potentially. Tenants actually have the right to surrender their contract at any time and not pay and do a runner. And usually there's not much landlords with knowledge So there's not much landlords without the knowledge that can do about it, really. Typical terms agents get tenants to sign are either 6 or 12-month terms. So there's no guarantee of longevity. So anyway, for the duration of the term, if a tenant within the single family household reports an issue, the landlord will need to cough up the costs since they are being paid rent every month. In my experience, the most common issues are usually plumbing related, especially as you move towards the winter time. Radiators get blocked with either air or sludge for not being used over the summer, and it can be quite costly to the landlord to rectify it. Also, tenants usually move straight in without any complications or extra compliance changes. It's a bit more simpler for the landlord, so they think anyway. So that's what you're up against. It's just a snippet of what the pros are for the landlord going in with a single household, as opposed to using yourself. However, you can see that there are pitfalls, and this is where you need to have your answers prepared. Each of these points may result into some sort of rejection, usually because a landlord or agent hasn't understood your model or your story and has identified a risk that hasn't been mitigated yet. So it's these risks that you need to be ready to have an answer for, and your service offering should be solutions to these problems, okay? So what are the solutions to these problems? The solutions are your USPs. USP, for those that don't know, stands for unique selling proposition. You need to think about what you can offer the landlord, a solution that stops him or her staying up at night, or stops them from staying up at night, basically. So based on what we've discussed, when comparing it to the competition, in this case, a single household or a family, can you provide a solution related to the security of the rent? Maybe a guaranteed rent agreement where you'll guarantee rent to them every single month. So that's one USP. With maintenance, rather than the landlord paying the bills for any repairs, if a rent-to-rent if this potential rent-to-rent is going to be making you £1,000 net profit per month, then surely some of that can be used to cover some of the maintenance costs. Like, for example, what we do in our company is, depending on the profit that we're going to receive, we cover roughly around £150 to £200 per month on maintenance. What if you could sign a term for 3 to 5 years and promise to guarantee the rent for that period? Not only is that a benefit to you, but also means that the landlord can sleep at night, knowing they will receive rent and not have to worry about agent fees or void periods for the next 3 to 5 years. Regarding the compliance that I mentioned in the previous slide and the concerns, what if your service provides a hassle-free experience where you take care of everything? It's kind of similar to those switch services that energy providers or banks have. In order for you to switch over to using them, they promise to do everything for you and that you don't need to do anything during the switchover. You can have the same approach. What about the upkeep of the property? Can you provide regular maintenance, like having a regular professional cleaner or gardener? So we actually in our business have in-house cleaners, and they visit our properties, our HMO properties, every single week, once a week for about 2 to 3 hours per property, and they'll clean the communal areas only, just to keep that sort of nice hotel service, basically. So not going into the bedrooms. It's not a turnover service, but it just keeps the communal areas clear, like the kitchen and the hallways, etc. Or even a gardener. Some of our properties have lawns. Tenants aren't going to have time to maintain it, so we just get a gardener in and call it part of the service. Now, if you were a landlord looking to rent your property and a company approached you offering all of the things that I've just spoken about, would you not take it? Of course you would. It's providing solutions to all of your problems as a landlord. So, ladies and gentlemen, on this webinar, this is how you get landlords on a waiting list to using your services. We haven't even touched base on any of the other tools that I'm about to cover. That alone, all of those USPs will get landlords queuing up. It's just making sure that you get that in front of a good number of landlords. We'll talk about landlord types a lot later. In fact, let's talk about it now. So just based on those USPs, it's clear that you're going to be looking for a landlord who basically just wants an easy life. Most of our landlords, because we have quite a few of their properties, we don't just have one landlord with one property. We actually have portfolio landlords, and despite them having more than one property, they just want to live a stress-free life, and they just want to know that they're going to be guaranteed a rent every single month, and that someone else is going to manage all of their problems. That's the ideal landlord client that you want. So they are out there. There's loads of them out there. In fact, who likes to work? Nobody really likes to work. They just want to live a stress-free life. There's so much more important things in life, like you use your household, life admin, and people just don't have the energy really to do this. So those are the landlords that you want, and there's so many out there. So there is more. It's all good speaking to landlords and agents. To be fair, making the phone calls is what's actually going to get you the results quite quickly. However, there are a few tools that you can have in place to give you that extra edge over everybody else. The objective of having these tools in place is to help you build credibility with your potential landlords or letting agents, in addition to the ironclad USPs you are offering. So firstly, you can have a website. It doesn't have to be functional in any way, just a simple brochure website that details who you are, what you do, and the contact us page. That coupled with some business cards. What also helps is having a social media presence. Not only is it good for brand recognition, but also social proof that you have positioned yourself as credible, basically. Just ensure that you have regular content that's usually kind of adds value to your target audience. So if you do have a social media presence, don't have a blank social media page. Populate it with good content. Another thing you can do is sign up to any of the landlord or agent associations that exist out there. To name a few, there's NLA, National Landlord Association. There's a few more. NLA seems to be the largest, I think, or most common. So signing up to them means you are a credible landlord yourself, and you can use their logos on your actual materials. So it can actually make you appear as an expert in your field, and not only that, but also offer that they do offer good training that can help you on your property journey too. So NLA have like a legal department or advice department where you can, if you're having problems during your management, you can call them up and on the helpline and ask the question, and they actually can answer the questions for you. So it's pretty good. Definitely recommend it. I think it's something like 80 quid a year or 70 quid a year. Finally, what you can do is also have an offer letter and a brochure that shows you're a credible company. If you were to leave this with a landlord or letting agent, they have the chance to read up on you. Also, the more times you speak or meet or have any contact points to your potential client or agents, including your reading materials, the more trust is built. When trust is built, the more likely they're going to be using you now or for future properties. So everything you do here has a major contribution in terms of sourcing. And we haven't even touched based on any sourcing methods yet. This is all pre-work that you can do in order to get a good start basically, from before contacting agents. So this is just ammunition. So now that you have your service offering covered and the solutions and tools to convert those landlords into clients, now we need to, as ourselves, we need to ask ourselves, what area should I focus on? My recommendation is to only pick one area and put your 100% focus into that area. But how do we filter through only the good areas? So here are some steps to choosing your Go Mine area. The first most criteria is to always choose an area that's no more than 30 minutes from where you live. It's because a 30-minute radius is not only commutable, but it's likely you know the area very well already. If you're operating a HMO model, the first thing you want to do is check the demand in the area. There are several ways of doing this. You can go to the website, go to a website called sparerooms.co.uk. It's a website that is mostly used by tenants looking for rooms. And what I suggest you do is check the demand on there by physically checking the number of people advertising for rooms versus the number of rooms actually available. So it's rooms wanted versus rooms available. Another thing you can do is just do a test advert and see what responses you get. We do it all the time. And it allows us to realistically in real time see what kind of responses we're getting. If you have at least 3 or more people for every one room looking, then I'd say that's quite a good ratio. So for every one room, you have 3 tenants looking. That's really good. Anything more than that, in our area, it's like 10 to 20 people looking for one room. So it's a high demand in East London. So the next thing you want to do, once you've ticked that in the box, is you want to check what HMO rules apply in your area. You want to learn about the room size requirements, the kitchen sizes, etc. You want to be armed with this information. Most of this information is available on your, actually all of the information should be available on your council's website, usually. Next, you want to check for any Article 4 directions in your area. So for those that don't know what Article 4 is, I'll quickly tell you what that means. It's a directive set out by the council that removes permitted development rights. For example, to operate a HMO, if it applies, it basically means you need to apply for planning to operate a HMO. So you want to, rent to rent is meant to be a low cost, high return model. So you're better off operating in an area that doesn't have the Article 4 directive. The reason why is because if you need to apply for planning, it can get costly. And not only that, if you're renting a property, you kind of need to pay the advance rent. And if you're paying rent and have no tenants, that's coming out your own pocket, and you can't rent rooms if there's no planning permission. So try and avoid Article 4 areas. Avoid Article 4 areas if it's a rent-to-rent model. So finally, you want to look at an area that has a good demand of houses that fit the criteria you're looking for, i.e. 3 or 4 bedroom houses. It's not good looking in places like Hemel Hempstead in London, for example, or the posh areas with gigantic houses. They're just not going to have the type of house that you want. It's quite clear you need to be in an area where it's 30 minutes away, there's no Article 4 directives, and there's a good supply of 3 to 4 bedroom houses, usually with 2 reception rooms on the lower ground. So that's how you filter through your Go Mine area. That will give you assurance to know that, okay, this is the area I need to operate in. And if I do get a property on the rent-to-rent model as a HMO, for example, I'm confident that there's not going to be any void periods or very low void periods. If you're looking at doing the service accommodation route, then obviously you need to look at an area that's potentially touristy. If you're going for that sort of market, if you're going for the construction market, obviously you want to be in an area where there's quite a few developments. So yeah. So the good stuff. So now that you know what area you want to operate in and are assured that you've chosen an area that's high demand, it's time to get sourcing. There's two ways of sourcing rent-to-rent properties. One is directly to landlords. It basically means you require a marketing budget and conduct marketing strategies to have landlords contact you. So it's more of a pull method rather than a push. So you kind of, it's like a fishing rod. You put the fishing rod out there and you reel the landlords coming to you. You reel them in. Or you can have a zero cost method by speaking to those that already do the whole direct to landlords marketing and have direct access to your target client. And obviously in this case, that's letting agents. The only thing this costs is time and effort. All you need to do is pick up the phone and arrange viewings, sell your pitch, and have them buy into your idea. So let's briefly talk about how you can market directly to landlords. Things have changed so much in terms of marketing than how it used to be, 10 to 15 years ago. With the help of social media and more companies moving towards providing a serviced type business, a lot of consumers now rely on experience in terms of social proof and experience. So there's something called a marketing funnel, and I'm not sure whether other courses out there touch base on marketing funnels, and I don't think they're doing this themselves. So here it is. Imagine you have a funnel where you have a large opening and then on the other end, a smaller hole. The same applies to marketing. So what you do is at the open end, you have cold prospects, i.e. landlords who don't know who you are and never heard of you, but somehow you've got in front of them. We'll talk about the methods of how to get in front of them on the next slide. Now, you need to convert them into becoming a warm prospect and hopefully signing them up to become a client, which is the other end of the funnel. The best way to do that in this day and age is by providing something for free that's of value to them. I don't know if you've noticed, but exactly like this webinar, it's completely free and you're getting value from it. Yes, everyone on this webinar right now are somewhere in my marketing funnel. That goes without saying. Now, in order to get that free thing, you need something in return, usually something that doesn't require much effort. It can be an email address or some sort of data that allows you to keep in regular contact with that person. So what you do with that is then nurture them, keep sending them value information to them. This might sound familiar. What this does is it builds trust. Now, towards the end of the funnel, you then offer your services, but by that time, they would have already bought into you because of that trust building exercise. They get to know you a lot better. It's like they know you without even meeting you. Now, obviously, this takes time and it's costly, but it works, and that's how letting and estate agents do it. Probably not as well, but the big boys definitely do it the same way. So that's how a marketing funnel works, and that is how you get landlords coming to you directly. And as I mentioned, all of the big boys do it this way. Some do it really well, some don't do it as well. So let's talk about how to get in front of your target market if you are doing the direct to landlord route. There's two ways. There's online and offline methods. So let's go through some obvious online methods. There's Facebook ads. It's cheap and it's great. It's a great cost-effective way of getting in front of a large audience for a relatively low cost. Mostly everybody's on Facebook or Instagram. The way it works is when you're on Facebook, for those that don't know, you may have seen those sponsored ads. That's essentially what the adverts are. There's also Google ads. Usually when you search a term on Google, the first 3 results are usually the paid ads. And the way it works is whenever someone clicks on the ad, it will charge you, hence the term PPC. PPC stands for pay per click. It's quite expensive and can be for your common search terms, but can be used in a smart way if you can be extra targeted with your keyword terms. So the way Google Ads work is you are kind of bidding for a specific keyword. So you tell your Google advertisement to say, whenever someone searches this word or this term or phrase, show my advert. And then your advert will show based on certain optimizations. I won't go into detail, but your advert will show based on them typing the keyword either exactly or to the nearest match to what you have set in your criteria. And then when they click on it, you then get charged. Now, you know, some keywords are really expensive, like £3 or £4 per click. But yeah, it can be expensive. It depends on your competition. So blogging and vlogging is also a great way of getting your face out there and becoming the authority of your field. Plus, you can rank organically if Google finds your information relevant to the user's search term. So if you create vlogs and blogs that have really, really good headlines, and those headlines are what people are searching anyway, that's Google's going to say, your headline matches this person's search term, so it's going to show that information basically. In terms of offline, the most effective way, based on my experience, is networking and word of mouth. The more people that know what you do, the most likely they will recommend you. And the best people to speak to are accountants. They'll have access to landlords. Builders, they'll always do jobs for landlords. It's just talking to the right people who have access to your target market. That's the smart way of doing it. Next is leaflets and letters. But in my opinion, I've had more success with the online methods than letters. I find that in comparison, letters and leaflets are way more expensive, a low return on your investment as well. They do work, but it requires consistent sending and targeting sending. We've just dropped letters and leaflets because we're having more success with the cheaper methods, and we're kind of multiplying and putting more money into those. And that's something you do with marketing. With marketing, once you have your various methods, you then start optimizing your marketing. You put more money into the marketing that's working, but is also cheap, because it's all about return on investment. There are people out there that do. I've seen from other courses that people say leafleting and letters do well. They may have had success, but they've obviously not. They may get 1 or 2 leads that come through, but that's just 1 or 2 leads. I think when you're getting 40 or 50 leads a day, leaflets and letters just don't compare to it. Just to give you an idea of what can be achieved. So now that's how you can market direct to landlords. But if you're looking for a more cost-effective method, which is what I keep going on about, then why not use letting agents? They already have direct access to your target landlord. And the best thing about it is you are in control immediately. This is more of a push technique. All you need to do is go into Rightmove or Zoopla, search properties in your goldmine area that we've identified, and then call up those agents that have properties suited to your criteria. That's the most easiest thing to do. However, it's also the most challenging hurdle that most people face. And some of you on this webinar may have faced that same thing, and I can tell you exactly why. Let's look at what we've discovered so far in the last webinar and this webinar. Firstly, we've discovered what your operation model is, i.e. what your day-to-day operation will be. This day-to-day operation is creating a story. It's this story that will give you your pitch. So one of the first reasons why people fail to convert landlords or agents from using you is because your pitch is all wrong. Now, there needs to be some sort of acceptance that not every landlord or agent is right for you or your model. It's in the same way you have iPhone and Apple or Samsung. Not everyone wants to use an Apple phone. There will be people like me who like using Androids, and that's just something Apple will accept. In the same way, not all landlords or agents will want to use your model. However, if you've nailed your pitch or your story and keep that consistent, you've already gone a long way from every other person out there that just pays for a rent-to-rent course and is told to call agents and ask if they accept company lets. That's not how you do it. You don't just go and call them up and say, "Oh, do you accept company lets?" The second thing that you need to accept is that you cannot expect to sell an agent or landlord in one phone call. There needs to be a trust building exercise. Thirdly, it's all in the follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Agents can get very busy and forget about you. This is why it's really important to pick a few agents and get really, really close with them. Visit them more than once and check to see what's coming up on their books. So hopefully you can get first dibs on a property before it's put on the market. I think more importantly, the main thing people fail to do, and to be honest, is the main reason to failing to convert agents, is having you provide solutions to agent problems. Remember, when pitching to landlords, we worked on the service offering and how the USPs will provide solutions to their problems. What about agents? What about their problems? See, the pitch is now different. The way you pitch to landlords is completely different to how you pitch to agents. So, what are the agents' problems? The best way to do that is by speaking to agents face to face. Build rapport and listen to them. What you're listening out for are these problems this particular personality faces. Now, it could be someone that is senior, in which case the problems may relate towards their business as a whole, or it could be someone that's a junior or a lettings negotiator who's ambitious and wants to move up to wants to go up the career ladder within their current company and maybe wants visibility. And the way they're going to get visibility is by being on top of their commission boards every month. If so, you can help them either way. At the end of the day, you can offer to move quickly, take on multiple properties every month, and offer them longevity. Okay, so that's those are potential solutions to agents' problems that agents face. But it all depends on who you're talking to. Now, I can see that this one of our mentees on the webinar, and I was having the same conversation with this mentee earlier on our weekly call. I think recently he found that he was getting quite a bit of rejection, and either the properties were going too quickly, but there were some agents that have bought into the idea. So I think there needs to be an exercise there where he's getting to know this one particular person more better, be a bit more charming, and also listen to what their problems are. Why are they doing this? And then providing a solution to that. And that's what it's about, basically. So if you're talking to someone senior or even a director of the business, then obviously they're going to want to see it as growing their business. So you can offer them to say, look, I can take on multiple properties and give you a little bit on the side. Or if it's someone that's a lettings negotiator that just wants to do it for commission and visibility, then there's an incentive for that person. You can potentially send them give them incentives by sending them away to track days or red letter experiences or whatever. There's so many incentives you can do. A bit of a bribe, really, but that's how you build rapport. So look, that's an overview into how to source rent-to-rent properties. And based on what I've covered for you so far, if I was to redo the poll that we did earlier, in fact, let me see if I can do this again. Let me see if I can do the poll again. I'm just going to ask you guys the same question. Yeah, I'm going to try and ask you, based on what you've learned so far, there isn't much to sourcing apart from that. You know how to source to landlords. We've briefly touched into the marketing model. We've also learned how you can approach agents and your service offering. So what I'm going to do is, based on that, to see whether your confidence has changed. Relaunch polling. Okay, I've just done that. See if you can answer the question on a scale 1 to 5. So far, so good. No one has, I mean, dare I speak too quickly, but nobody is lower than 3 anymore. Now it's 3, 4, 5, which is really, really good. It means that really what you know now is you have the tools and the USPs that you can use to try and convert these landlords. Last week was all about understanding the model. This week's about how to get landlords and agents to understand the model. It makes sense, right? If you're providing all of these solutions, if I had someone come to me and if I was working for somebody else and I occasionally invested in buy-to-lets or even had a second home that I'd like to rent out because I used to live there previously, and I had a company come up to me and say, I'll guarantee you the rent every single month, I'll cover your maintenance, I'll have a weekly cleaning that comes in, and I'll take your property for 5 years and guarantee your rent. I'd take that. It's hassle-free experience. So that's how you can convert landlords. But then converting agents, if you've got a story and you pitch that story to agents and you know how to build rapport with them by communicating with them constantly, again, you'll have more confidence and they'll want to work with you. Now, it is a numbers game, but at the same time, there will be, what you'll find is there won't be 10 agents coming after you. There will be, out of the 10 agents that you call, there'll be 2 or 3 that are happy to work with you constantly. And that's what we have in our business. We have specifically 2 or 3 agents that provides us properties, and they call us up. We don't even actively call them anymore because we actually aren't aggressively growing our rent-to-rent properties anymore because we're focused and we've got different goals now. We're looking at commercial to residential developments. But that's just, as I mentioned before, there's that property funnel that I mentioned. And once you get all 3 machines working, it kind of runs itself. And you can then move on to the scalability of other businesses and other strategies. So anyway, thanks for doing the poll. I think that's really good to see. Let me just end the poll in there. So going back to our blueprint here, we've covered the sales model. Once you've got a pitch that you can see is working with 1 or 2 agents, the key is then to repeat the process. And it's really important to keep it consistent. I.e., for every 100 calls that you need to make, you may get 8 or 9 viewings, but for every 8 or 9 viewings, you may convert 1 or 2 to sign up. What you want to do then is then get to a point where your cash flow allows you to afford a salesperson. You can then hire a salesperson to keep up with these calls instead of you. That's when things really get interesting. And to be fair, it's mostly what's covered in the scaling component of the framework. So that's the sales machines, guys. I hope you found that useful. In the next webinar, we'll be talking about the systems component of our blueprint, i.e. the next part of the process, where once you sign a property, what to do next. We'll talk about compliance and all of the detailed stuff. It's definitely not one to be missed. Look out for your emails for the link to register for this webinar. It will most likely take place next week on I'm thinking it's going to happen on Friday because I've got another event on Thursday that I'm talking at. So I think Friday due to availability, but just look out for your emails. And we're just over time. Sorry about that. We're just over, but there's still more. Oh yeah. So now some of you on this call will probably think how you can apply this strategy to your current situation or may have questions. So again, what I've done is freed up some time tomorrow and next week and opened up some slots for obviously the free 15-minute strategy call that I mentioned before. Let me see if I can send you that link now. So if you open up the chat facility, I'll just give you a chance to book a call. We had quite a good number of calls last week. If you have spoken to me already and want to still have another call, that's perfectly fine. I've just sent the link on the chat. Feel free to book those calls, schedule the call. Apologies if there's times that you want to do and it's not available. We're quite busy. We're approaching the end of quarter, so there's a lot of end of quarter meetings that we've got. So yeah, if you click on a link, it will take you to a page where you can book your slot. It's like a calendar thing. So before I open the floor to Q&A, click the link and I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. If you're looking to get started or thinking about it, I would personally say, why wait? Why procrastinate? Just do it. Also, I'm more than happy to help and guide you through the process to get you started if you're interested. But if you do, we can talk further. Just book a call. I think let's move on. Cool. I'll open the floor to any questions. So if you've got any questions, just type them in and I'll go through each and one of these. Sure. So there's a question here. Can you quickly go through the tools? There are a few things that you missed. I will go through them right now. Bear with me. Trying to remember what slide that was. Tools. Okay. I'm going to try and do it from memory. I kind of free flowed on it, so bear with me. Tools. What slide is that? 10. Okay. I've got some bullet points here. Right, here we are. So first thing is to have a website. It doesn't have to be a functional website. It could be just a simple brochure website that details who you are, what you do, the USPs, and a contact us page. You need to have some business cards. That also helps when you meet agents or landlords. You want to have a good social media presence, so have a Facebook page, have an Instagram page. You'd be surprised how many landlords are now on Instagram. You'd previously think that, okay, it's just for youngsters, but it's not. There's a lot of landlords that are using Instagram. It's really, really good for brand recognition. It's also social proof to give you the position yourself as credible. Take my Instagram page, for example, and my YouTube page and my Facebook page. If I didn't have that, would you guys even consider joining this webinar? And this goes to show about all the value content that I provide on those on those platforms. And all of that content is for you. I don't ask you to do anything. Everything I'm doing here is giving you everything for free. But everything I'm giving you is exactly what you need in terms of the concept of your next journey. So I'm giving you information that you want to learn. If I didn't have all of those social media presences, you probably wouldn't even bother doing it because you wouldn't know who I am. And that's the whole point of those platforms. Those platforms are going to allow people to do their due diligence on you, basically. Another thing I mentioned was signing up to one of the landlord associations or letting agent associations. One of them is called NLA, National Landlord Association. You can use their logo on your material to say that you're a member, and that gives you credibility to when you speak to agents and landlords. And the other thing I mentioned was having offer letters and like a letter-headed template showing that you're a proper company. And whenever you have a property that you've seen, what you want to do is send them an offer letter. Don't just say, yeah, I'll take it. What you want to do is send them a proper offer letter. And that's something we provide our mentees, actually. We in the documents we provide our mentees, one of them is a offer letter template, and you can use that to send to your landlord. It just adds so much credibility. You can also provide a brochure that has testimonials. A brochure is basically a paper version of your website. It just shows how credible you can be as a company. Was there anything else? I think that was it in terms of tools. Do we need to set up a limited company? Absolutely. Not only do you want to have the approach of that you're an established company, but secondly, if you're taking on, put it this way, if you take on properties on your personal name, you've got the rent coming in, and then you've got expenses like the utilities, paying the landlord, and what you're left with is obviously your profit. Now, if it's on you personally and you're self-employed, you're going to be entitled to pay 40% tax. If you set up a limited company, this is based on the same model, but your tax on the profit you make is only 20%. All you have to do is pay something called corporation tax on a limited company. Your accountant can even help you. Sorry, I think it's gone down to 17%, the corporation tax, actually. But yeah, 17% is a lot better than 40%. So do we need to set up a limited company? Absolutely, yes. Being VAT registered is a story for another day. That's really open to what your accountant recommends. In order for you to be VAT registered, you don't have to be VAT registered unless your turnover is £85,000 or more a year. Anything less than that, you don't have to be VAT registered. But I do think being VAT registered adds a lot of credibility. It shows that you're obviously earning a lot more. How do you go about hiring a sale agent to close deals? So there are loads of ways of doing it. What we've tried various models, not just hiring sales agents, but just anyone in your first hire is most likely going to be a property manager as opposed to a sale agent. Now, if you're doing, when you start out this rent to rent, you're going to be doing pretty much everything. You're going to be wearing many, many hats. You're going to be wearing the accounts hat. You want to be wearing a sales hat. You're going to be doing the admin. So you're going to be doing everything because to start off with, you're not going to be able to afford to pay staff, basically. When you get to a point when you can afford to pay staff, so what is a property manager? A property manager is is someone that is going to be dealing with the day-to-day management. So you take on a property, it's a HMO, for example. Those tenants, whenever something goes wrong, they're going to want to call somebody to get something repaired. A property manager will be someone that can handle that. It's also someone that can handle day-to-day operations. In fact, the next webinar is where we go deep into the system side of things. So we'll go into detail about what property management is required. But in terms of how do you go about hiring these people, including sales agents, we've posted job adverts on Indeed, and that's we've had various successes with it. I think it depends on the job itself. For example, for hiring a cleaner, in-house cleaner, I think we just got very poor quality of people from Indeed. So it kind of depends on what the job is. A property manager is someone that you can get from Indeed quite well. What we do is we hire apprentices and on an apprentice scheme, just because it's a lot cheaper, but we can help them grow their career. It's a perfect starting position for someone looking to get involved in property. So we get an apprentice in and we kind of train them. We have a very, very good training program in our company for everybody. Everybody has a career path. We even have we have an outsourced HR service that kind of handles that for us. And we have appraisals every quarter, and we give our employees objectives that they have to meet. And if they meet certain objectives, there's chances of moving up their career path. If we sign up to your course, would we access to the training you offer to the apprentices? No, you wouldn't. But because all we do is we actually get our HR company to do it. But what you can get is access to my HR company. It will give you the idea of people using doing our mentorship is so that they have access to our power team. So I'm not looking to keep everything to myself. Anything that you need, I'll be happy to share any resources, basically. So yeah. Did I answer the question about how do you go about hiring a sales agent? Yeah. So I mentioned Indeed. We've had, to be fair, our salespeople that we've had have all come from LinkedIn. LinkedIn seemed to be good, and it's just headhunting. Also, you can go down recruitment agencies. So you can speak to recruitment agencies and say, you're looking for this type of person. This is a job role. And then they'll go out and post on all of the other sites. They'll do all the filtering, but you do the interviews. Good set of questions there, guys. Any other questions? Speaking of training, it also depends on your current processes. So in our business, we have something called an operations manual, and that operations manual is something that so in the 11 years I've been operating, it wasn't until we got to year 4 when I actually realized that I need some sort of manual. And that manual basically details everything we do in the company and how to do it. But it actually all depends on your current processes. So an operations manual will vary business to business. And in all honesty, I think the operations manual needs to be written firstly by the owner, or at least created by the owner. And there needs to be a process in place so that operations manual can be updated on a regular basis by people who are in those jobs. So for example, we have an operations manual for our cleaner. We have an operations manual for the way we do certain things on the system we use called Duplex. Everything has it's like a task list as well on how to do certain. It's like a step-by-step system on how to do a certain task. Do we need contracts, etc., when dealing with rent to rent? And do your mentees have access to those contracts? Yes. So for anyone that has questions about our mentorship, we do offer a mentorship. I'm quite picky about who we pick because it's a 6-month mentorship, and all we want to do is just give you results. I'm not looking to do mentorship forever. We're not an education business. I'm only doing this because there's a bigger agenda for us as a company. So what we do commercial to develop to residential developments, and we're actually looking next year to start investing in hotels, and we want to go to larger commercial buildings. That's where we are in the business. So the reason why we're doing these mentorships is to help people grow change their lifestyle and grow their income. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to create a community of investors. So I want to turn every single one of you ideally into investors. And if you want to basically go into developments anyway, why not invest with us? So that's our big agenda, really. That's the whole funnel that we have here. So I'm giving you all of this free content, teaching you how to invest in how I even started. And then if you want to go into property anyway and do developments, then why not come onto our larger developments for a profit share? So that's the idea. And the more investors we have, the larger the developments we can do. It's as simple as that. You make more money doing that than selling courses. So I'm not looking to do courses all the time. But yeah, those that do come on our courses, they do have access to all of the contracts. We give you, our course is designed for making it so much easier for you. So it's not a course, it's a mentorship. That's the difference. A mentorship is there mainly to guide you and to give you everything you need and accountability. So we have weekly calls. It's 6 months. We don't do 12 months because I find that when we used to do 12 months, people don't do anything until the penultimate month. If you've got 6 months, you've got a good deadline, and you get off your ass and actually do something about it. Plus the weekly calls with me directly. I'm going to make sure that you do some work anyway. So yeah, you get all of the content. Or in terms of the mentorship, what you do is you attend a weekend, and that's sort of the kickoff of your mentorship. And that weekend is where you learn everything about rent to rent, and basically we go through the blueprint that I mentioned earlier, the 3 components. And then upon leaving that weekend, you get access to a Dropbox link, which has got all of the documents you ever need for your business with regards to rent and everything in it, all of the letter templates. And all you have to do is literally just pick up the phone and make phone calls. I created this mentorship with thinking about how I started, and I didn't have access to all of this stuff. And I thought, what will make it easier for me if I was to start again? And if I was given everything and all I had to do was make phone calls to convert agents or landlords to using our services, that's all I want to do. I don't want to worry to faff around on doing things that don't matter. Now, a lot of people say, I'll focus on my website. It's all well and good having a website, but a website's not going to make phone calls for you. What's going to make phone calls is you. Having a website and business cards helps. It's a tool to build credibility, but a lot of our mentees don't have that stuff and are still getting results. So making phone calls is everything. Would it be an online course? No, I think the whole mentorship needs to be one-to-one directly. I don't want to be one of those people that are kind of just doing it for the money. It's like I said, we've got a bigger agenda here. We want to build a community of people that are actually making money. And what better way to do that than to actually have some face-to-face time? So like I said, we have a weekend course. You attend that, and then after that we have a weekly calls and occasionally meet up. That's how it should be done. It's all results orientated. So we don't just teach you this stuff and you go away and do it. We teach you this stuff, but based on workshops. So we have something called an implementation weekend, where 80% of your business is actually set up during that weekend. And the first day is where we talk about everything pre-sourcing up to closing a deal. And you actually apply everything that I mentioned on this webinar, sourcing, goldmine area. You'll know what those are because we'll actually go on to, we actually apply it to your business. And I have no more than 6 people on the weekend, just to keep it more personal. It's usually either in our offices or some sort of venue in London, depending on the number of people, depending on the people and the location. If the majority are from outside of London, it'll probably be somewhere in the middle or close to your area. And what we do on that day is we do some live calls. And what I do is I actually take on a call on your behalf and book you and secure you a potential viewing. So kind of rather than talking the talk, kind of walk the walk and just get it done for you so you can see how it's done. I pretend to work for your company and say, I work for my managers, blah, blah, blah. I work in the sales department. This is what we do. And I literally try and sell to the agent on your behalf for 1 or 2 of you based on real life deals. And you can walk away on that weekend with potential appointments. I've done it before. I'm put on the spot. Sometimes it doesn't go the right way, but you can see how I deal with it, how to deal with rejection. How many days for the training? So it's an implementation weekend. So it's Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is usually more about the system side of things and scaling. Saturday is about sourcing. And then the following week, we start our weekly call. So we have a 1-hour weekly call every week. And I specifically ask 2 questions: what you did last week and what you're doing this week to reach your goals. Yeah, that's the whole point. It's we kind of do a call as an example, and you could actually walk away because it's to do with. There's a workshop that you do. There's a workshop that you do during the weekend where you start searching Rightmove and looking for properties that are in your goldmine area. And when you've picked 1 or 2, I then grab the phone and start calling those agents so that you can potentially walk away with viewings. So what do I mean by the 2 days? Sorry, that's the implementation weekend, Adam. So if on that implementation, the implementation weekend is the start of your basically your mentorship, the 6-month mentorship, and that's where 80% of your business is set up basically. So the first day we cover sourcing up until closing the deal, and then day 2 is where we cover everything after that point to scaling your business. It's based on this blueprint, the 3 components, and then after that, your weekly calls start for the next 6 months, and the idea is to get your results in those 6 months. So there's a few of you on here that I've already spoken to, but if you haven't spoken to me yet and you want to learn more, then just make sure you book a call, and I'll post the link again. When's the next webinar? It will probably be on Friday next week. Apologies, it's a Friday. I have another event on Thursday that I'm doing. So Friday, most likely, probably the same time, 6:30. And then we've got one more webinar the following week. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And like I said before, we're not looking to start an education business. You make more money from doing developments than you do from selling courses, and I don't really want to do that. I'm only doing it to help people and get you guys to invest in us anyway. If we're all heading in that direction, why not do it together? Any more questions? Adam, give me a call. No more questions are coming in. I hope that was useful, guys. Sorry we ran over. It's been an hour and a half. The next webinar is going to be really detailed, so you might want to have a coffee before you come. It's going to be about systems and what happens after you take on the property. So we've done the bit where we spoke about converting agents and landlords, but once you've got the property, what do you then do with it? And how do you manage it on an ongoing basis? There's a lot to it. I'll try my best to try and condense it into more digestible chunks. But like I said, it's more focused to those that are process and compliance. Compliance is really, really important. You do not want to do this the wrong way. And that's what the next webinar is about. Thank you very much, David. Just to give you guys an idea, we have a few developments going on right now. And it's not all plain sailing. We get problems all the time. In fact, that's all I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I just get problems coming my way. So developments don't always go to plan. Even if you put contingency in developments, something always comes up. It could be rain and there's nothing that your builders can do on that day, and that adds to delays. And when you're looking at developments with predominantly funded by investors, then you've got to keep them happy. So what is development? Do you have to build houses from scratch and sell them or rent them? So what we do is we do two things, Adam. What we do is we find properties that are already commercial buildings, kind of like factories or offices, and we convert them into residential flats and apartments. We also predominantly do large HMOs. So we have one that we're working on now. It's in negotiation stage, but it's a pub. And what we're doing is we're turning that pub into a large co-living space. We're looking at probably 200 rooms in a very, very good area. Now, providing all goes well, it's going to be very, very profitable. And if it's a HMO, what we're going to do is keep it and then rent it. With the apartments, we're going to be selling them. It also depends on the market as well. So remember I mentioned exit strategies earlier on in the webinar. It applies with property as well. And what you want to do is have backup plans. So the intention is to sell, but if the market doesn't allow us to sell at the price that we want, the backup plan is for us to keep them, rent them out until the market allows us to sell it at the price that we want. So that's the thing with developments is you need to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, probably a plan D as well. So that's what allows your investors to invest with you. Like I said, whenever there's any risks, you need to know what those risks are and know what to expect from your investors in terms of risk. And if you know those answers, they will invest in you. It's the same with agents and landlords. If you know what risks there are and why they would say no, and you have answers to those, you can turn it around basically. Sounds obvious, but when you're in the day to day, there's so many things that happen that emotions get involved, and you kind of just, when emotion gets involved, you realize that you're not as smart as you think. Smartness goes out the window when emotion comes into it. But when you've got a clear head and you're at peak performance, you try and make better decisions based on informed data. That's exactly what we're doing. Commercial to residential conversions. For those that don't know, if you've got an office that's of B1 use, so each building in the UK has some sort of use type. So C3 is like normal residential, C4 is HMO, A1 is stuff like restaurants, um, and B1 is office. And the government has a directive that they've set out, and they've said that you do not need planning permission to convert an office into residential. So that reduces the time that you can have in your planning, your project planning. So some people are taking advantage of that by doing a conversion and not having to wait for planning to come through. Kind of digress a bit. We're now not talking about rent to rent, but yes, there will be a replay for this webinar. As soon as I've ended the webinar, it will do its thing, and then I'll upload it to YouTube probably tomorrow or Monday, and then an email will be sent out just with the webinar link. Any more questions, guys? Cool. Why do you teach now? What's your purpose? Again, it's because I want to build a community of investors. And like I said, with my developments, with what we have planned for next year, we want to do larger developments, and we're going to do that. We've got a few hotels or potential properties to turn into hotels in the pipeline right now. And the requirement for those is it's a large amount of money, and what we need is investors. So what I want to do in future, now and in future, is to continue doing large developments and have this community of investors that I'm trying to build now to invest with us. So if I can teach you on how to make money on renting, for example, rent to rent or developments, it's likely that you're going to go into developments anyway. So the idea is to build a community of people that can do it all together with me. That's why I'm doing it. So I'm not looking to teach in the long run. As the brand grows, a bit like Grant Cardone, he does the same thing. He doesn't do developments per se, but what he does is he has a huge following on Instagram and YouTube. And what he does is he gets investors that like him. He does teaching as well, but he says the developments make him a lot more money than teaching. But he gets all of these people to invest in his developments for a regular cash flow. And I want to do the same thing in the UK. I don't think anyone in the UK is doing it to that scale. Someone's got to do it. I hope that answered your question. Who inspires you? Who are your role models? It's a good question. I've got quite a few role models. And I guess I had different role models at different stages of my life. So initially, I had an interest in business, not necessarily property. And at that time, I used to read a lot of Richard Branson books and Alan Sugar books. So those guys definitely inspired me to get into business. I actually had businesses in the past that didn't do so well. I tried to start a fragrance business, and it required a lot of money, and I kind of just gave up. I then went into like an affiliate voucher website that I created. It did okay, but again, it needed a lot of money, and I just didn't have. I was doing too many things at once, and focus was not what I was doing. So what did I do after that? Then I did some trading. I tried to learn about trading Forex and failed miserably. And then property kind of just stuck. And it turned out I was quite good at it. So, well, I enjoyed it. And you get good at it as you continue doing it. And I think that's the key lesson here. But who else are role models? I think who else is role models? At that time, it was probably people that are already doing business, but I think there gets a point in your life where you realize, okay, you've got this skill set, you've got the willpower to do it, uh, and you start to believe that you can do something that nobody else is doing, and that's where I'm going with this. I do like Grant Cardone, though. I think I think his heart's in the right place, and he is what you see is what you get with him, and I think nobody should um, uh, tippy toe around anyone. They should just be themselves. So Grant Cardone will definitely be a good role model. I tell you who else is a good role model. Someone that's not related to this stuff. Um, Dwayne Johnson. Absolutely love him. If you aren't following Dwayne Johnson on Instagram, follow him. He's absolutely inspirational, not just from his what he's achieved, but his work ethic. He's at the gym at 5 in the morning every single day, and he trains every no matter how much he's traveling or wherever he goes. He always ensures that he's at a gym. I guess another person that's inspiring is actually Kevin Hart. He's come really, really far. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Not so much people that you'd expect, but I guess what 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 gives me what my purpose would be is if I'm doing something meaningful, and I kind of respect and get inspired by people that are also doing something that's meaningful. Um, there's people out there that are doing things for money, but uh, there is a term where people say money doesn't make you happy. That's false. I can definitely tell you money does make you happy. Um, it might not give you fulfillment, but it definitely makes you happy and it gives you a lot of options. So then I think the only people that say money doesn't make you happy are people that don't have money. But it definitely gives you options to give you a bit more flexibility. Anyway, I think that's it. If you've got, I'll give you another 10 seconds for any questions. This has gone on quite a bit. Sorry to keep you guys. I know some people have already left. Um, thank you, Logan. Enjoy your evening too. Right, let's call it a day then. Thank you very much to everybody for staying on. Nice to see some familiar faces. Charles, I can see that you're here. Nice to see you. Thanks for attending. Uh, Great. See you later, guys. Have a good evening.